Hi, I'm Cheryl Ann from Cherry Lane's Cupcakes, and today I'm going to show you how to make these brown butter cupcakes with a cookie dough surprise inside and topped with some cookie dough frosting. If you haven't already watched the first part of this video, which is how to make the raw cookie dough, please click the link on the top right hand corner and come back here when you're done. First, you will need to burn 145 grams of unsalted butter, and then you just stick that in a pot and let it melt on a low to medium heat. Keep stirring throughout because you want to prevent the butter from splattering all over and burning yourself. So you just keep stirring, and as it boils and simmers, a layer of white frothy type looking thing, like as you can see here, is going to form on the top. Don't worry about it, just keep on stirring until your butter is nice and dark brown. Essentially, you're burning your butter, which gives your cupcakes a really subtle burnt bitter flavor. I know, it actually sounds pretty gross, but it actually really helps bring out the sweet cookie dough flavor as you devour your cupcake later on. Anyways, just keep on stirring until your butter looks something like this. It's like really dark brown and burnt. You might smell a little bit of burnt butter flavor, but it actually smells really good. And as you can see, there's a lot of burnt residue, so that's why in the next step you're really going to have to strain it. So you get a clean bowl, put a strainer over top and pour your butter into it. As you can see on the top, like this frothy and black stuff is all caught on the strainer. You want to strain it a few times. Here I strained it 3 times just to make sure that my butter is going to be really free from all these burnt residues. If you have an oil sheet, that'll be much better. It'll be so much quicker. You'll probably only need to strain it once. So once that it's done, let it cool to room temperature before you cover it in plastic wrap and stick it in the fast chill section of your refrigerator. While that firms up, you can prepare your other ingredients of 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, ½ a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Try to use the pure, not the imitation, because the flavor is just much better. And then 1½ cups, which is 195 grams of sifted plain flour, 3 large eggs, ½ a cup, which is 100 grams of light brown sugar, firmly packed, 1/6 of a cup, which is 37 grams of custard sugar, and finally a 1/4 cup, which is 60 milliliters of milk. Firstly, just start by pouring your baking powder and your salt over the top of your flour and just sift it through. Once that is done, just use a whisk and mix it really good until everything, all your baking powder and your salt is nicely combined evenly in your flour. Next, in a separate bowl, sift together your white custard sugar and your light brown sugar. You really want to make sure you do this part because light brown sugar has a real tendency to clump up and create little rocks inside, so by doing so, you're going to ensure that you have a much smoother batter later on. So I just used a whisk, and towards the end I used a spoon to just push in the rest of my brown sugar. And as you can see at the back, a lot of the sugar just stuck to the back, so you just scrape that off and pop it back into the bowl. Next, you just use a whisk and mix your sugars together until it's nice and evenly mixed together. Once that's done, you're ready to remove your chilled butter from your refrigerator. Here I actually put my butter into the freezer for about 5 minutes, causing a layer of the butter to freeze up on the top, leaving the inside still wet. Don't worry about that, just use a teaspoon and mix it up. The chilled layer is going to help chill the liquidy layer inside, causing it to become a really even and creamy consistency, which is what you want. So if you left it in the fridge, just wait until it firms up a little, at the same time remaining soft enough for you to work with. So you just keep mixing it up until it lightens in color and looks something like this. And then you're ready to just pop it into your bowl of sugar. Start beating on a low, make sure your bowl is deep enough so that your sugars don't just fly up everywhere. So you start low and then you beat on high for about 3 to 5 minutes until your butter and sugar is all nicely combined and looks something like this. And then you just want to add in your eggs one at a time, beating well after each addition. So that was egg number 1, beat well, and then you add in your second egg, beat that well too, and finally your third egg and just beat that well. And once you are done with that, just add in your vanilla and continue beating until everything is well mixed together and smooth. Next, just add in half of your flour mixture into your wet batter. Start slow when you're beating because you don't want all your flour to just fly up all over the place. So you beat that until everything is combined, and then you add in half of your milk, beat that well, then the rest of your flour, and then the rest of your milk. The reason why you want to do this slowly in parts is simply because it's going to make it a lot easier for you to work with your batter. So once that's done, remember to scrape down the sides as you go along, continue beating until your mixture looks something like this. Really smooth and creamy and with no lumps or chunks inside. Make sure your oven is preheated at 175 degrees Celsius and then just bake these at 175 degrees Celsius for 10 minutes and then bring it down to 135 degrees Celsius for another 10 minutes. Every oven is different, so if you find that your cupcakes are cooking too quickly and almost burning on the top, quickly bring it down to 135 and watch it carefully. You will know that your cupcakes are done when you stick a toothpick in it and it comes out clean. Next, just let these cool on a wire rack for about 10 minutes until it's cool enough to handle. And then now you'll just need to get a sharp knife and cut the middle of your cupcake. So you cut a round hole around a centimeter, depending on the size of your cupcakes, and cut it until like halfway through. You don't want to cut it so deep until you reach the bottom. You want it to just be around like halfway through. So you just pop it out and then you can make it a bit neater inside if you like. So here now I'm just trying to make it a nice rounded looking well. So once you're done with that, you just do it for all of your cupcakes. These cupcakes are really quite dense because you don't want to have like a really fluffy cupcake and then you just bite into a dense cookie dough because then the consistency is kind of weird. And these cupcakes aren't even that sweet, so when you bite into the cookie dough flavor as well as top with the cookie dough frosting, the flavor of the cookie dough is just really strong and prominent. And yeah, I think this and the slightly bitter cupcakes just go so well together. Just try it for yourself and let me know what you think. So here I'm just coring, I guess I could call it coring, like you're coring an apple. So you're just coring your cupcakes to prepare it for the cookie dough. If you had previously refrigerated your cookie dough, just make sure to leave it out for a while until it becomes room temperature and is soft enough for you to handle. So now I just pulled out a tiny little bit of cookie dough and I'm going to shove it into the well. As you can see, I put too much, so just pinch off a bit from the top. And I just kept pressing the rest in. I wanted it to be really compact because I didn't want to have any hollow spaces inside the cupcake. And once that's done, you're ready to make your frosting. Here I'm using half a cup of double cream. You can also use thickened cream or heavy cream. Personally, I find that thickened cream doesn't really whip up as easily, so I really recommend using double cream. So as you can see here, as I whip it, it becomes very liquidy, but you want to keep on whipping it on high until it creates firm and stiff peaks. So here I'm just beating it, and as you can see, it's slowly already starting to firm up and thicken a little bit, and now you see it's really thick. And once you reach this thick consistency, you're ready to add in 1 cup of your cookie dough. You can just eyeball it. So I'm just going to break it up into bits so that it's going to be easier for me to whip it together. And then you just continue beating it. Start on a low before you continue on high for about 3 to 5 minutes until everything is evenly combined and becomes light and fluffy. You can adjust this based on your preference, whether you want it to be a creamier texture or not. So here I wanted it to be creamier, so I just added a little bit more of my heavy cream and continued beating that until I got a consistency that looks something like this. So now I'm just using my measuring spoon. It's a tablespoonful and I'm going to spoon it onto my cupcakes. I didn't want to use a piping bag for these because I wanted it to look like there's a cookie dough on top because it is a cookie dough frosting. So I just put little dollops on top so it's nice and round. And after that I just use my teaspoon to slowly just flatten it down a little bit to make it nice and poofy. You can also use a piping bag if you want to, but I just find that this was a lot quicker and easier for me to do. And once you're done and happy with how it looks, I just used some shaven dark chocolate and sprinkled it on top to complete the look of the cupcake. So that's how you make some brown butter cupcakes with a cookie dough surprise inside and topped with some cookie dough frosting. I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And till next time, I'm Cheryl Ann from Cherry Lane's Cupcakes.